emodels.co.uk. Make something awesome. Hey everyone, it's Foxx from Model Making Guru here. Hello. Welcome to part 4 of our build of the MPC 124th 20... No, that's wrong. Start again. MPC 148th 22-inch Eagle Transporter from Space 1999 for emodels.co.uk. Yeah, I only fluffed it once, never mind. How are you doing everyone? Hello. Welcome to part 4. Now, in the last episode, you'll remember that we finished off the command module. We got it all completely built, so it's just awaiting painting now. The next step is the spine, the backbone of the whole craft. And in the instructions, this is step 6, 7, and 8. Now, what I've done, I've gone ahead and got all the bits ready for this. We have 2 side parts for one side, 2 side parts for the other side. We have 10 long cross braces, 10 short cross braces, and 2 of these I-beam type cross braces. And if you're wondering why I've got this bit of advertising, why I've got this here, it's a glass chopping board, and this will become apparent very shortly why we need this. Now I'm a bit nervous about this because this is the step in the process where if I get this wrong, the whole thing goes horribly wrong, as was the nose. So yeah, so I need to get this right. So I've been a little bit worried about this bit. It seems simple, but there you go. Now, what I've gone ahead and done is I have denubbed and de-seam lined all these parts. It took me about an hour and a half. When you get these parts, there is a seam line all around the outside, all around the inside, and on both sides of all these little cross braces here. Every surface has a seam line going all the way around, so you have to take your time getting the seam line off. There are also some ejector pin holes dotted along the length of these. You can't see them here, these are actual lugs for pegs, but there are little ejector pin marks. Now thankfully with this kit, first of all the plastic is really soft, so sanding it's dead easy, and second of all the ejector marks are kind of very shallow. In fact, so shallow that you don't need to fill them, you can just sand them flat. So that's what I've done. Instead of filling them with filler or sprue goo, I've just sanded them flat so you can't see them now. So I am liking on this kit the thing of so far, anywhere I've had an ejector pin mark, like a little circle, recess or dimple, I can just sand it away. So that's great. To remove the seam lines, you can use either a normal hobby knife, or I've got a specific seam line remover from AN brand. I won't show the other side, it's got the name on. I just find this easier because it's got a big thick solid blade and it doesn't flex. But you can use your hobby knife, and all you're doing is you're getting the seam line and you just 45 degrees just dragging the blade along to get rid of it. I just find it easy with the other tool because this blade, I think you touched the end then, God, Tony would have been having fits. The blade is flexible, so I do find occasionally it tends to gouge or scrape, and it takes longer to remove it. So if you've got something like a blade but it's thick and solid like that, you can see there it's quite thick. I don't want to show the name off, it's quite thick, but anything like that that's got a nice sort of sharp, it's not sharp, it's not a blade, it's just got a nice 90-degree sharp edge, 45 degree. So I use that, but it doesn't really matter what you use. You could sand them off, but that would take you approximately all the time in the world. So, what steps do we have? Step 6, glue the 2 halves together for each side, times 2. Step 7, put in the I-beams and 2 of the small cross braces and 2 of the large cross braces just to get everything in the right position. And then the last step is just slot in all these other ones. Now there is something you need to be aware of. These two cross beams have these slits at either end. You have to make sure they're in the right position. So the one that goes at the front, the slit has to be at the back, and the one that goes at the back, the slit has to be at the front. I think this is where the screws will go later on to lock the passenger module in place or something like that. So I need to make sure they're in the right place. So let me get everything ready and we'll crack on. Okay, so the first step is to glue the two sides together. I'll make the two side parts. And this is fairly straightforward. We just have two adjoining parts and you have little lugs and little holes that those lugs go into like that. So nice and straightforward. Now, this is why we need this glass cutting mat. My workbench is not necessarily perfectly flat and these need to be straight. And all this assembly needs to be straight and true. So this is why we're using this cutting mat, because it guarantees me a nice flat surface. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. So this part is quite easy. We're going to take our Tamiya extra thins and quite easily, quite simply, we're just going to put some glue into the little gaps. Now I've not put glue in there to start with because this glue, as I've said many times before, is thin enough that it will work its way into the little gap and down between the two parts. So that should do everything I need it to do. A little bit more maybe. And I want it to be a little bit flexible because I've got the combobulation to do. So I'm just going to push those together. Make sure they're nice and flat. Give it a minute. Now this is where it gets challenging now, and I need to move myself around so I can do this. What we need to do is we need to add two of these I-beams, two big beams, and two small beams. So this is where it gets interesting. This is where we have to herd some cats. So there's no real difference between the front and the back. They're both exactly the same, I think. Hole, 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 hole. Yeah, they're exactly the same. I hope. Yes, just double checking on the instructions. Yes, we have those the right way around, I think. Yep, cool. Right, so the next step. This is going to be the front, so we need to make sure this, as in the instructions, faces towards the back. So what we need to do is somehow figure out how we're going to do this. So this needs to go in one, it needs to go in 1, 2, 3, 4. They've actually conveniently numbered the holes along the bottom here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it needs to go there. It needs to be on the third cross beam along. 1, 2, 3. Yep. Okay, that's cool. So that needs to go here. Right way up. Now this is where it gets a little bit fiddly. So this could go horribly wrong. If you haven't seen this bit, it's because it went wrong and it got so fiddly I had to film it separately. So we're just going to loosely put it in there for now with a little bit of the glue, just so it doesn't move, just to get it in place, and then it'll fall out, because of course it will. What we need to do now, I just need it to not fall out every time I move it. 2, 3, 4. Do the same, glue in the same holes on the other side. And this is where my head may come into shot. I need to somehow get this into those holes. Oops. Oh, there you go, straight away. Failure and carnage. Yeah, nobody said this would be easy. Let's try a different attack. Try it this way around. Give it a second. Let it do its thing. Get some glue in there. Let's try it the other way. No. Hello. I have a plan. I have a plan. A cunning plan. I have a book. Move these out of the way. I have a book. Let's try again. So we need to get that in there. Now the glue's going to stay workable for a little while, so it will still be sticky. if I put that there, I can hold that. I can line up the holes. I can line up the holes, he says, not lining up the holes. Okay, so that should sit there for a second. Need to get some glue in there. Where's me glue? There's me glue. This is very tricky. So imagine trying to do this on camera as well. It's even more tricky. Without getting your head in shot, which is probably happening non-stop constantly. Okay, so that's there. Now, that's not exactly the right angle for it, but that's where we're going to sort this out in a second. Because now we need to put one of these little top pieces on as a spacer. And we need to do it, where do we do it? The very first hole. So we can do it here. This will give us the top angle. So we know exactly how far apart these things need to be. Kaplunk. Oops, daisy. No, that's all gone horribly wrong. Come back. Right, where are you? Come back. This is not easy at all. Hello. That should go in there. It just gives us a little bit of the idea of the distance. So we can get that glue in there. Okay. So that's there. To make sure everything's in. Everything appears to be in. Oh, squish. So now what I can do is get one on the bottom as well. So down here, which I can't actually see, but I can figure out where it is. This is getting challenging now. This needs to go, oops daisy. Very frustrating filming this. This needs to go, I can't get my hand under there. Let's do another top one. Top one is at the other end, so I'm going to put my thumb there to hold it. Now I have to slide this. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to rehearse this before I do it, so because you just have to do it. Now, as I say, this glue doesn't take too long to set, but it doesn't set straight away. So it does mean I've got a little bit of a while to fiddle with it and adjust it. So make sure that goes in there. And these beams do have chamfered edges, so there's a right way and a wrong way around. I hope this is on camera, probably not. There we go. Perfect. Okay, that's that there. Get some glue in there. Now what I need to do is give it a second, and I need to do something very daring, and that is turn it the other way up, because then it'll make life easier for the... Ooh, no, need to leave it longer than that then, don't I? Hello. So there's no secondary bar here holding it in place, so to hold that for a minute. Go on, there you go. Get in. Get in. Okay, so I need to leave that for a second. I need to get this other I-beam in. So I want to be able to turn this upside down somehow. I'm going to get my head in shot, sorry. Blowing, blowing. See if I can do this without disrupting the whole thing. Yes! Huge success, almost. Almost huge success. But like I say, because the glue is still workable, it's helping me out. So this one, the hole needs to be that end. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. Then this needs to go 1, 2, 3, 4 there and there. Needs to go in like that. Hopefully this is on camera. That goes there. Give it a splodge of glue. push it together. Bit more glue in this top one. Okay, right, now I should be able to turn this over with no major dramas, I hope. Don't make a fool of me. There we go. Right, so that is on there. So they are in. There's still some flex there, which is good. So what I need to do now, I need to do the end parts as well, actually, so I need to turn it over again. Oops. Carefully. Okay, so we've got 2 end pieces. Let's get these on. You can't imagine how stressful this is. It's very stressful doing it on camera, because I've got to pay attention to what I'm doing, make sure it's all in shot, try not to screw it up, and make sure I'm talking and being interesting at the same time, so you've not just got dead air, because nobody likes dead air. That one's not going together very well. Let's have a fight with this one. Hold that one for a second, and you can move in a bit. There we go. It's important to try and keep it on the flat surface, just so everything stays nice and straight. Okay, this end is not cooperating, but it may do shortly. Once we get the other spaces on the top, it should start to cooperate. So I'll get the one in the other end. Now, I always advocate never using super glue if you can avoid it. It's never the best glue to use, well, very rarely anyway. So if this was super glue you're using right now, apart from the fact you don't need to use super glue on a plastic kit, you'd also be finding that all this would have set and you'd have no wiggle room and no play room. You'd have no way of adjusting anything. So something like this that dries quickly, I mean, Tamiya Extra Thin dries quickly, but it's still malleable for a while. And that's the beauty of it. You can still play with it a little bit. I'm going to turn this over. You get an idea for the size of this thing now. And what we have to do next is get these little top parts on. It does say, dry fit each part in place and apply liquid cement to the joint, allowing the capillary action to bond the parts. You can't really do it with super glue unless it's really thin. Install all parts M44, the top ones, before beginning to install parts M45, the bottom ones. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 parts. So we need to dry fit these first. Now this may be a little bit of a struggle because we're going to have to push and pull a little bit. But that's fine. That's why we like the fact the glue has some flex to it, because I've got to push this up. Ugh, hello, that wasn't supposed to happen. I've got to push and pull a little bit to get these things to go in. Oh, it's all just making a fool of me now. Do you know, never work with kids, children and over fiddly complicated model kits. I'm going to put a little bit of glue in there. I know it doesn't say to do this. Sometimes you have to go off the beaten track, just so it doesn't fall out every time I try and put the next one in. So put that one in there. And like I said, these parts are slightly chamfered, so make sure you get the chamfer right so they make a nice seal. It's like a kind of quill shape at the end. It's not just a straight rod. Okay, oh, hello, get back in. Get in your box. And some adjustment means you'll get these lining up perfectly after a little while. What may not line up first of all, but then it's because one of the side pieces isn't quite straight or something like that. This bit's come at the bottom here. Oh, hello. I'm having issues with this one at this end now. All the fun of the fair. Okay, so get that in there. Make sure everything's lined up. This top one's come out. Fantastic. Right, where's my tweezers? Making me get my tweezers out now and everything. You little thing. I nearly swore then. Nearly, but not quite. Get in there. Just rotate it around so it fits. That one's coming out again, so we're going to have to fight with that one. that one at the end wasn't lined up quite right, so it had an odd angle. That's why it wasn't sticking. So again, make sure everything's lined up and all the sort of chamfers are in the right place. Now this one. There you go, that's that one in. So now I've got that end piece sorted here. These are actually cooperating a bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 5. There we go. Panicking, panicking. Didn't think I had enough then. Now this one. These ends are a bit further apart, so this is a bit more forgiving. If I can get more than one in, that'd be a bit faster, wouldn't it? 2. Oh, no. Yeah, you're going to have to glue as you go, despite what it says in the instructions. Dry fit it in place, and then glue it, and then move on to the next one. Because otherwise, every time you put the next one in, the last one's going to fall out. Which is not awesome. I'll tell you what, Tony. You've got your tank tracks. This is my tank tracks. Yes. Get this one in. In you go. You need to go back up again. Don't fall out. Oh, do you know? It's a problem having them so close together. Right. Get in that little hole. Oh! This is the worst. Right. You get glued. Get glued. You get out. Right, so hold that one in place best I can. Get this one in. Now I'm going to be quite generous with the glue. Again, a lot of it will disappear into the little gaps. But if you do get any blobs of glue left over, don't panic. You could just sand it. Okay, so that's those in. This end's coming out again because it's spun round again. Stay where I put you, you little thing. I could have just kind of edited this, but I'd rather show you the actual process. That way you get to see me faff with it, so that you don't need to necessarily have to faff with it, because you can plan a bit better. Because I've never done this before. Of course, I don't know how it's going to go, so you can use the benefit of my hindsight. Hindsight. If you take that literally, it means seeing out your backside. That doesn't seem very practical or pleasant. Okay, so that's there. And the next tool, this one here, like this you see, goes in like that. Yes, there you go. Now we are cooperating and cooking with the gas. Das ist richtig. The Tuben mit Gluen und the Coordinaten. The other reason I'm using a glass chopping board is because it won't stick to this. It's not going to stick to it. The last thing I want to do is end up with this glue to the chopping board, because that would be kind of suck. Now, it won't stick to your cutting mat either. But if you are doing this, I would recommend just laying something down, not just going straight on your cutting mat, unless you know for certain that that cutting mat is straight, true and flat, and not like me, because I've got two tables together and there's a gap here and it's not quite straight and it's not brilliant. Brilliant. Right, so that's those in. Have to hope this is all lined up nicely. Turn it upside down. I'm going to push the two halves together a bit more just to make sure they're joined here correctly. Oh, stressful, stressful, stressful. This is quite stressful. That wasn't in properly. That wasn't in properly. There we go. Thought it felt a bit bulgy. Now for the long pieces, which is basically exactly the same technique, but with these ones, it won't come out on camera. It might come out on camera. There's a little tab, but it only goes halfway up. If you can see it there, you have to make sure that the tab is at the bottom. So it will be, when I'm gluing it upside down, it's at the top. But if you're gluing it this way up, it will be at the bottom. So I need to make sure that's the case. I'm going to slide these in. These should go in quite nicely now. That needs to squish. That needs some glue. Glue. I'm sure this is the least interesting thing you've ever watched me do. I mean, I could film denubbing. That would be the most least interesting thing I could ever do doing, and you would hate me forever. Trust me. If I filmed 45 minutes of me denubbing, you'd just want to just go off and become a nun or something. Okay, so that's in there. That's in there. That's in there. Yep. Got that one there. So if you're doing this upside down, make sure the nub is at the top of the bar. If you're doing it the right way up, which I don't recommend because it seems to be impossible, make sure the nub is the other way up and the nub's at the bottom. So I need to go in and apply the glue. Now I'm going to be quite generous here because I want no shenanigans. I need this stuff to set and set good. Set and set good. That's not even real English. This front one doesn't seem to want to fit very well. This one's come out. Brilliant. Does seem to be a bit of a spread on these two, so I'm just going to glue these two and hold them for a second. Because this part here seems to be kind of spread apart a little bit. And I know this is all the way off camera, so apologies. Give that a bit of a blow. Now you two stay there. Blowing on it doesn't actually help, it just makes me feel like I'm doing something helpful. It's not going to cooperate, so what I'm going to do is get myself some tape, a wee little bit of tape, and I'm just going to get a bigger piece of tape because that was big enough. I'm just going to use the tape to hold it in place by pulling it tight, and hopefully that should. Oh, I'm a fool. I'm an idiot. Hopefully that should push those two together a little bit more. Now I'll just go and put all these back in again, should I? You know what I'll do? I'll glue them as I go. I'll glue them as I go. Boop. Boop. It's like watching a master at work, just without the master part. Caution, idiot working. Let's put that in there first, do it the fast way. Squish. And what you have to hope, and really have to hope, is that this all comes out straight and true. Because if it doesn't, I wouldn't like to think what the consequences of that might be. Other than, let's just be honest, ass. Because this needs to sit on top of the whole thing. And if it's not straight and true, it might still go together, but it's going to look a bit shonky. That one in there. So yeah, be generous with your glue. You can clean up lumps and bumps later. It's not a problem. And the last one goes in there, like that, we'll see. So I'm going to just hold that for a second, because this end was alright, the other end seemed to be a bit splayed out, so make sure everything's in and true. I've got a fingerprint there in glue now, but again, don't worry if you get a fingerprint, a gluey fingerprint, you can sand it out. Some more glue on those just to make sure, because these were looking a little dubious. It's a bit messy, but like I say, this is the underside anyway, so you're not going to see it. But it doesn't do any harm, so let's just make sure that's all straight. Give it a look down, even though it's got tape on one end. I'm just looking down it now. Looks pretty straightforward. So I need to take this tape off now, and this is where it gets all horribly wrong. Okay, so that glue's set quite nicely. So that is there. And what I need to do now is let this set. So I'm just going to go over these top bits again, just to make sure, because they were being a bit ribald. Is that a word? Ribald? Ribbled? Ribald? A bit of a pain, especially this top bit. So I'm going to give that a second. That was stressful. That was right stressful. That was, blimey Riley. Okay, so that's all there. Now you can see now it's just about straight. There is a bit of a in the middle. So what I need to do now is first of all throw the lid everywhere, put the glue away, get myself some books. I have The Public Life of the Street Pigeon by Eric Sims, and I have A Symbol's Life by Alexander Orlov, both very dusty. There's a bookmark in that. That means somebody's actually read that book. Really? Somebody actually read The Public Life of the Street Pigeon. Probably the mother or the father. Right. I'll go and let that dry for an hour. When we come back, we'll do the next bit. Back in a moment. Who's that going to be now? Hello?
Otacon, I'm at the point where I need to paint the red stripes on the wings. I need a CQC compliant technique for masking off.
Stripes. Wings? Have you got the right number?
The wings on the Colonial Viper need to mask off the stripes. Wait, you're not Otacon.
Colonial Viper? Dude, that series was like 2 years ago. You really got the wrong video build series.
Oh, crap. In that case, forget everything I just said and delete this frequency. This conversation never happened.
Okay.
Wait, before you go, can you do at least like Otacon and give me some ancient Chinese proverb or something? It helps focus me.
Okay. In order to facilitate good communication, dial slowly and carefully?
Carefully. Got it. You know, you're much less annoying than Otacon.
Thanks. I guess. That was weird. Okay, right, so while the spine is drying, time to move on to the next 2 steps. We'll get these 2 steps done, then we'll call it an episode. I know it's not been much going on in this episode, but it's just because that spine took a while, and these are just bits of gluing. But like I said earlier on, with this build, because there are some fiddly bits and kind of ways you have to do it that I've found out, I'd rather show you the building parts where I think you need to be aware of how to do it. So I won't show you every step of building, but I will show you some. So first we've got to put these little clamps on these, and then we've got to build these brace structures here. There's 4 of those. So thankfully it's very easy. I've done one here already. This has got the little bits on it. This, I don't know what you really call them. Bracing points. I'm using the word bracing a lot in this video. It's really bracing. This is dead easy. Let's have a look. We've got 4 of these little dudes. 16 of these. Now, I have noticed, like on the other tubes on these, and if it'll come out on camera, but there are some injection mould points along here. And what I'm going to do on the spine, I didn't need to do everything, sort of deal with all of them, because some of them could just be sanded away, the ones you'd see. And I have left some because you're not going to see them, they're out of view, so they're fine. These you possibly will see. If you look where the module will be here, you'll see these potentially. So I'm going to have to fill these in, so we'll do that later on. But for now, let's just get these little puppies on. Couldn't be easier. All we need to do is put a little glue in there like that, was it? Get our little device. Got a little tooth on the inside, if you can see it, because my thumb's in the way. And it just slides on there. We'll just do them all, then we'll wiggle them. And again, because this glue doesn't set instantly, unlike CA glue, you do have a few moments to adjust and wiggle. So we'll get those on. Do it slightly off camera, brilliant. There we go. Okay, so just make sure those are all straight. Check them for lining upness. Yep, they're all lined up. So we're just going to put a touch of glue on the back here. Just straighten that one up a little bit. Touch of glue on the back just to get some extra stickiness going on. Remember, the glue will go down between the 2 pieces. It'll go into the gap because of the capillary reactions. Shaky hands again today. So that is those on. I'll just make sure they're straight. Now look, at these don't actually pin into anything later on. They do join up with the rest of the framework, but they don't actually have any little pins inside, so it's not the end of the world if they're not lined up. So the next step, that's that step, so I've got both of those made. The next step is fiddly times. Now this is where you need to pay attention. You see here you've got parts Q18, which is this one. You have K15B, which is this one, which I'm keeping separate so I know which is which. And you have K17B, which is that one. They both look exactly the same, but they're different numbers, so I'm keeping them separate. Now it also mentions part B63 here. Now the reason it has don't glue is because you don't actually need this part yet. This goes on well later on in the instructions. The reason you're going to use this is to make sure these are all lined up okay. What we're basically going to make is these things. These go on the sides of each of the fore and aft modules, either end of the passenger module basically. There's all the equipment in here, and you need to get these angles about right. Not perfectly right, there'll still be some flex when it's all glued and you can adjust it, but you need to kind of get them about right. So we need to use part B63 as an template. So let me go and get the bits and we'll do that. Okay, right, so you can see I've got part B63 here. I'm not taking it off the sprue, because if I take it off the sprue I'm just going to lose it. I know it's big, but I'll still lose it. I'm an idiot, I can't help it. So we can leave that where it is, just keep it on the sprue for ease. Now what we need to do is we have these 3 parts. The main back wall there, which just has 2 pegs that slot in here, and then either piece. On these pieces you can see, if I do it on camera, there's 2 pins in the middle far apart, and there's 2 pins in the middle close together. The close together ones are the ones that go into this. Now there's also massive ejector pin marks, but you're not going to see these, so I'm not going to worry about filling these in. If I need to later on, I will do with some sprue glue, but as far as I can tell, you're not going to be able to really see these, not unless you're kind of looking from the other side, and you can't, so there you go. So take this piece. Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out as well, on one of these pieces, it's quite shocking actually. It's quite shocking, don't you know? Look at that. Let's just put my hand there so it's not hidden. Look at these holes here. That's supposed to look like that, solid, and it's got these massive holes just from the moulding. Maybe an air bubble. So I'm going to need to fill those in with some sprue glue as well, but again we'll do that later. So let's get this built. Now it's all stripes and lines, so it's kind of odd to watch, but never mind. So take this part. You want the holes on the inside and the ejector pin marks. Thankfully all the ejector pin marks tend to be inside things, so this is going to be hard to see because it's all kind of complicated. So what you wanted to do is basically part K15B is the one that goes on the top now, and the instructions it shows it doing on this side, building it like that. So what I've done is I've done one on this side, and on the other one I've built it this way around, so it's like that. Just in case there are any nasty surprises later on, I'm not getting anything in the wrong way around. And again, you need to make sure the ejector pin marks are on the inside here. So you can use either end. I tend to do one here and one there, but also always make sure K15B is the top one. So this needs to go in there. This doesn't have any pins to secure it. It's just 3 pins into this tube. So what we need to do is get ourselves the glues and quite liberally coat this part here, like that, you see. But we're not going to put any glue on the bottom pin, because you don't want to glue it to the base part. The base part is just a template. So what we need to do is line it all up. It doesn't have to be spot on lined up with the template for now. You just need to get it in so the glue sets on. I appreciate my hand's in the way, but I'll show you in a second. So I'm just going to hold it here for a second just to let that glue start to bite. It's also way up at the top of the camera, but I can't move it now. There we go, it's better. So I just want to hold it there for a moment just to get the glue to bite. It'll take a few moments. Okay, so what you can see, if I've got a pointy stick anyone? What you can see is basically this piece, and I realise it's kind of really hard to see now because of all the white stripes everywhere. See if I can turn this round a bit. There we go, made it a bit better. This bar here on this piece needs to line up with the bar on this template piece. Now it's not perfect right now, and I haven't glued it in because I don't want to glue this to that. So for the moment I'm just getting it roughly in place. So there we go. I'm just looking at the screen now and it's like it's hard to tell what bit I'm gluing and what bit is background, but never mind. So I'm just going to be some generous dollop of glue on these interior corners. There we go. Quite generously. Again, if you get any blobs of glue, don't panic. Don't panic at all. You can just very carefully sand it later. So I'm going to keep that. I'll try and get it roughly lined up, just to make sure everything's roughly in position. Okay, make sure everything's in. Make sure all the little tabs and things are pushed in. So I'm going to leave that now for maybe 30-40 seconds, just to cure a bit more before I pick it up. So, back in a second. Okay, so that's at about 30 seconds to just do its thing. So what I need to do now, again, it is hard to see because you've got the white tubes and the white tubes. Sorry about that. I'm going to go on the outside just with a bit of glue, again, quite generously, and only on the middle and the top. So get those into place. It's just about getting those two in place first, and then you can handle it and start doing the bottom bit. So that should be fine. So that is all reasonably lined up. So what I can do now, it should be sticky enough and sturdy enough for me to pick it up, get some glue on the bottom piece here, which is in place. It's just not glued. Now what I will do, again, I'm being generous with the glue. What I will do is very quickly just blow on it to flash off any glue on the peg. Put it back down here, and now I'll just adjust it now so it's lined up with the frame piece. So now we have all 3 pieces. I can turn it around a bit for you. We have all 3 pieces glued in, and this now is lined up with this part of B63, B63, B63. So that's glued in. So what I'm going to do is give that a few seconds now. I've just given it about 20 seconds there. I'm going to go back in with the glue again, just to reinforce. And I'll take this off and put some more glue on. Both sides, because you want it to work its way into all the little crooks and nannies. blow off the bottom. Ooh. Again, just to flash any glue off the peg so it doesn't glue to B63. So that is now in. And the good thing is this is going to be adjustable for about 5 or 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that just for about a couple of minutes. Then I'll come back and do the same on the other side with the piece that goes here, K17B, which just fits on the other side there. Oops, if I throw it, that'd be handy. K17B just fits on that side like that. Do exactly the same, make sure they're all lined up and then leave it for 5 minutes to set, and then I can take it away. It's just very important you make sure you don't glue it to the base, because this doesn't get attached directly to this at all. This has either the engines or the front of the back of the command module on it, and that goes on right at the end, so this doesn't need to be glued. So I'm going to do that. Now that's going to do it for this episode, I think, because it's a couple of, next bit is another couple of big steps. So I don't really want to, let's just try and move this out of the way so you're not going blind looking at stripes. I don't really want to get involved in the next step too much, because this will become like a 2-hour video and that would suck. So we're going to leave it there. As you can see, we have now done the spine. Let me pull out a little bit. There we go. Get some focus going on for you. Where's my focus tool? There we go. Handy little tool that for focusing an old Tamiya pot or a Tamiya tape thing, because it's not brilliant white, so it's not going to freak your white balance out too much. So we've got the spine done now. You can see the spine is all nice and dry and rigid. It's got a little bit of flex to it, but that's cool because I'm sure there'll be some adjustment. Oh, knock that over, why don't you? Hello. Eine Momente bitte. Yep, still lined up. Cool. So yes, the spine's all done. We've got 3 of these done, and I'm just doing that 4th one now, so they're all ready for later. The next step in the instructions, as I say, we'll do in the next video. What comes after that? Oh, I tell you, I hate folding out instructions. They're a right pain. Now that's done, we can start moving on to the fore and after modules. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but we'll go through these. You can see I've made some notes on the instructions here after getting some advice from one of my followers, so we will have a look and you can see where those go on there. They go onto the sides of these modules. So that will be the next step, doing all this shenanigans. There'll be some filling to do. I will need to go back and do some filling on these. Apart from the one that had all the holes in the pipe, I'll have to fill that in as I knock the camera. But I've also got, not really on these, but there might be 1 or 2 little ejector pin marks I need to fill in, and we'll just do that with some sprue goo. Like I did on the nose, we'll just put a dot of sprue goo over the ejector pin and then let it dry for 24 hours and sand it down so it should be flat. I tried sanding some of these out, but they're a bit too deep on this part. So what I said earlier about them being easy to sand away, yeah, I was lying. It made me a liar. So yes, that's all done. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. It's not been a very exciting episode because it's all been gluing stuff together. And that's not exciting at the best of times. But we'll crack on in the next one. As always, do go along to emodels.co.uk. Address here. In my opinion, the UK's leading online model retailer. Everything you ever need, from kits, tools, glue, paints, compressors. They do RC stuff as well. That's remote control to you and me. And loads of stuff. I always say if they haven't got it, you don't need it. And what I mean by that is if there's something specific you want and it's not there, it's either just gone out of stock, in which case drop the guys at eModels a line and they'll be able to let you know when it's back in. Or it may well be it's something they don't carry, but that's not the end of the world, because either they'll have something else just as good, or if you can't drop them a line and ask them, it might be something they can actually get hold of. It's just something maybe they don't normally carry in stock. I've seen them do it before, so they can try for you. They will always try. There is now an offers page on the eModels website as well. Just go to emodels.co.uk and there's a menu option for offers. They're looking at what they've got in stock and seeing what you might quite like and what would be good for you to get a deal on, because you guys have asked for offers and deals for so long. Pete Mate decided, you know what, we're going to have an offers page. So it's not just junk they can't get rid of. It's lots of good stuff in there, and there'll be short-term deals. They might last a day, it might last a week, could be a month, and it's updated regularly. So always go along and check and see what's on offer. There's all kinds of kits and books and paints and tools and everything on there. There's some quite good deals on that page, so go and have a look. But that's going to do it for me. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Go make something awesome. Go be awesome. And adios, amoebas.